Welcome to the Trashcats Trashcast. I'm Richard.
I'm Steven.
And today our episode is on none other than the infamous viral video, 2 Girls, 1 Cup.
Dude, I am so excited. This is going to be so much
You say that every episode, but this time I know you are for sure.
This time I mean it.
It was a great idea.
So before you click pause on this podcast and never come back to the show, I promise we're not going to get super explicit. This episode is going to focus more on why the creator of this viral video went to prison, the effects this video had on the internet, culture, and our legal system, and the ethical debate this video created around sexuality and obscenity laws. So I promise this will be fun and not too gross, only a little gross. But first, how was your week, Ricky?
Week's been good. Not too many food truck jobs this week, so I've mostly been kicking it at home.
Nice.
Had a nice party over a friend's house this weekend because fully vaxxed up now. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah.
It's
got some Halo in last night too.
Yeah, man. Got some fun Halo games, and I in one of those I wasn't the worst player on the team. I think it's cool. I mean, I suck at Halo, but I enjoy Halo.
It's the fun.
That's what's important. Yeah.
It's the fun shooter.
Yeah.
So
how was your week?
Oh, it's been all right. Tomorrow, I'm super excited. I finally get to pick up my cat tomorrow.
Hell yeah.
Picking her up from the animal hospital at 3 p.m. So I got everything prepped, got all the toys and food ready. So I've been preparing for that and then just fucking hustling out some job apps and watching YouTube debates. Been enjoying those a lot lately.
YouTube debates between whom?
Different political people or intellectual people. I really like, it's probably cheesy as fuck, but I'm a big fan of Destiny. The video game streamer, he'll like put on a debate versus like 4 other people that try to tear him apart while he intellectually picks them apart. But there's a couple other people I like a lot too.
Nice.
Yeah. It's been fun. Very entertaining.
I'm a real fan of, I don't know much of Destiny's work, but I'm a real fan of Destiny's Child.
Basically the same thing.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing, I'm sure.
Sometimes I put on a Destiny debate and I mute it and put on Destiny's Child just to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
Now, are you ready for all these honorable mentions? I got good ones.
I sure am.
Okay. So this first one, I believe there's a picture in the chat, but it deals with, have you ever heard of incorruptibles?
No.
I didn't know this was the term for it, but incorruptibility is a Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox belief that divine intervention allows some human bodies to avoid the normal process of decomposition after death as a sign of their holiness. So there's certain religious artifacts that are called incorruptibles, and you often see them like under glass, and it's like the remains of a saint or a pope.
Okay.
So the one I sent you is Saint Anthony of Padua, and he was exhumed in 1263, 32 years after his death. At this time, his remains had completely decomposed, with the curious exception of his tongue, which was taken as a sign of his gift for speaking and teaching about the word of God. And they build them into these artifacts under glass and like then build like shrines around them and shit. And the one I sent you is this gold statue, and the face of the statue is like a glass orb, and they have the saint's jaw and tongue on a pillow inside of it. So
pretty fucked.
Fucking wicked. And there's other ones where they'll do like a saint's foot in a golden shoe, or like different bones or skin in glass containers. It's just so fucking rad.
It's too metal to be Christian.
Right? So that's the first one. Well, real quick, some modern examples, like we've preserved both JFK and Einstein's brain. Yeah. There's been popes not that far back where they preserve their whole bodies in glass tombs. And the communist leaders, that's like a thing. There's like Russian temples you can go to with like their bodies there to worship. It's fucking wild. All right, so second one, this is real quick. Picasso's watch, customized with his name on the dial, just sold for $270,000.
Jesus.
Isn't that ridiculous? He had this custom watch built that has a letter of his name for each hour. So fucking stupid.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, it looks cool.
It looks. But... I mean, what is cool is that from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock you have ass.
It's fucking ass o'clock for Pablo.
Ass o'clock, man.
Okay, next one. 3 sharpened bird bones are the oldest tattooing tools ever discovered. These 3,000-year-old sharpened turkey bones are likely the oldest tattooing tools ever found. Archaeologists uncovered the tools at a historical Native American site in Tennessee, which is kind of wild. Years later, researchers from the Tennessee Division of Archaeology and colleagues analyzed the bones and determined that they are stick-and-poke tattoo needles.
Oh, wow.
They found the remains of pigments in the bone when they tested them.
Fucking ow.
It looks so cool.
It does look really cool. Fucking ow.
All right, and then this last one, I thought you would specifically like this one. A new device for smelling in stereo.
I'm down as fuck.
So after our memory episode, this reminded me of you, but I also think it's funny to be the last honorable mention going into a 2 Girls, 1 Cup podcast.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
Yeah. The fact that we have 2 ears on opposite sides of our head provides us with directional hearing to determine where a sound comes from. While we have 2 nostrils, though, we can't smell in stereo to find the source of an odor. Now, University of Chicago engineers have demonstrated a small electronic device that clips onto your nose to imbue you with directional smell. It stimulates the trigeminal nerve that reaches into your septum with electrical current. Apparently, it just feels kind of like a clip-on nose piercing. It just looks like a chip with 2 wires. And if a smell is produced, you can follow it. Like you have smell. Smell is typically like just one.
It's literally the next step towards smell-o-vision.
Dude, how cool is that?
Also, no one could ever, if you have that on, no one around you could deny that they farted. Because you could track it right to their ass.
100%. Now, I do think the future of underwear will include like smell seal technology. I think 20 years from now, farts will be a thing of the past.
We use those bags. Well, I mean, there's 2 parts of that. I was gonna say you use those bags that they use to keep weed fresh in, keep it, from smelling outside the bag.
Oh yeah.
First of all, I've never had one that actually like worked for real.
The good ones are expensive.
But second of all, that means that you're marinating in that methane.
When you finally take off your underwear.
Oh God, it's just awful.
Yeah, you're
a long shift at work, and then all of a sudden, oh.
Yeah, you're much better at vacuum sealing shit, that's for sure. Okay,
vacuum sealing your ass.
So, to our subject at hand. So, that goddamn video. When was the first time you remember watching for Two Girls, 1 Cup?
It was probably right when it was getting viral and it was popular. So it was probably around 2007.
The golden age of the internet.
Yeah. My friends and I were into shock sites at the time anyways. We used to make like the printout iron-on t-shirt designs for shit like brad.com or Meatspin and stuff like that, or Lemon Party.
Yep.
And we would put it on a shirt and then like just the URL. And then so people would see it, and then the idea would that be like they'd see it and then they'd go to it later. Or we'd hand out pieces of paper one of the lines I used to use all the time was, I just got sponsored by this website, and if you go and you just, you click a link, it'll just say that, that I sent you there, and then like I can get sponsored and I can get money for it.
Right.
And people would be like, "Oh yeah, sure.
Let me help you out, dog."
Yeah, and then they'd go home and come back the next day and be like, "I got grounded. My mom was in the room when I opened that link," and I was like. And we thought it was funny.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, so to prepare for this podcast, we both, of course, had to rewatch the video. I gotta say, I think it's just as funny as it was in 2007.
Oh, absolutely it is. It's more gross now to me than it was then.
I find it a little less gross, to be honest.
I think the reality of it sets in now. Where it didn't faze me then. It just went over my head, the reality of what's going on there.
Well, now that we're adults and we know more, we'll get into...
we're mature.
Yeah, of course. We'll get into the debate on how real, because there's a whole debate around that as well. So for people who may not know, let's kick it off with a little description. If you're asking yourself, what is the 2 Girls, 1 Cup video? If you've somehow never watched it, I have no idea how you've managed to listen to our shitty podcast for this long.
Yeah.
But for those who may not know, the creators of this masterpiece call it a form of artistic expression and a love story.
Jesus fucking Christ. So here's a description from the creators. The original uncensored and uncut 2 Girls, 1 Cup video is a trailer for the artistic film Hungry Bitches, made by MFX Media. The daring work of art is an allegory to the concept of spiritual awakening. It examines the prevalent ideologies that are internalized in our culture, and in true postmodern form, the thematic piece tends to raise more questions than it answers.
Sure does.
The philosophical film has varying interpretations, which is why the 2 Girls, 1 Cup is still analyzed and debated about to this day.
Now, to be clear, this is a scat film, and I think description is hilarious. Most people definitely find Wikipedia's description to be much more accurate. 2 Girls, 1 Cup is the unofficial nickname of the trailer for Hungry Bitches, a 2007 Brazilian scat fetish pornographic film produced by MFX Media, same thing. The trailer features 2 women defecating into a cup, taking turns in what appears to be consuming the excrement and vomiting into each other's mouths. The Lover's Theme by Arve, right? What is it? Arve Roy plays throughout the video. The video became one of the best known shock videos in itself for the reactions of its graphic content elicited by viewers who had not seen it before. All those reaction videos that were all over YouTube. Mm-hmm. Around mid-October 2007, video sharing sites, including YouTube, were flooded with reaction videos. 2 Girls, 1 Cup pioneered a specific kind of video genre that would come to define sites like YouTube in the coming years.
And I think like at least 1/3 of YouTube is reaction videos. It's gotta be. And to think that 2 Girls, 1 Cup was one of the, original heroes that brought that genre into our world.
Now today there's a lot. I couldn't say 1/3, but it's a lot.
It's a fucking lot.
And I think previously it was a higher percentage because YouTube was so much smaller.
I feel like 1/3 because for every video of something, there's a reaction to it. And that's not true for everything, but for a lot of things.
Yeah, but think about how many bad rappers put each song as a video on YouTube.
I mean, true.
That alone.
There's probably reactions to those.
Do you want to start doing reaction videos of any rapper we can find on YouTube?
Yes, please.
Once a week, we'll just grind one out.
That's Patreon content right there.
That would be good.
All right. So let's talk about the production of this movie and why someone would make it.
Yes.
Marco Fiorito started making films in the early 90s with his wife under his own production company, Dragon Films. They specialize in foot fetish, female domination, and defecation fetish films.
Nice.
They placed ads in local newspapers to sell VHS tapes, which was common of the porn industry at the time. Buyers would call the number listed in the ad to get a tape shipped to them. Marco and his wife made enough money to live off producing their own fetish films, and eventually the business became so popular that they were able to hire additional performers to act in their projects. In 1999, as the internet porn industry began to boom, a businessman named Louis Villa-Boas approached Marco and offered him a partnership to sell his company's films on the internet. According to Marco's testimony in a U.S. district court, he had no idea how to work the internet, but trusted Louis because the money was periodically sent to him from the sale of his films online. Through Louis, Marco met Danilo Croce, who started to advise him financially. Marco said that he didn't like Croce, and he was never made a formal part of Dragon Films.
Oh, now, dude, wouldn't it suck to have to buy porn? God. Like the
fucking VHS tape of porn.
God, what a pain in the ass.
And you can't just get it. It's like you have to like call someone and then like discuss payment options, I guess.
Right.
And then you have to wait for it to arrive in the mail.
Gotta go buy stamps.
Right.
At the post office. Wait 2 weeks.
Make sure your wife doesn't open it before you do.
Right. Plug in the VCR. It's a lot of work.
Jesus. Plug in the VCR. So the complicated relationship between Marco and Croce didn't stop Croce from expanding Dragon Films. Croce sold copies of the studio's films in Florida using the same scheme that Marco did in Brazil. Created a catalog, got customer orders, and delivered the films in the mail. Things were going well for them until September 2006, when Croce was arrested on charges of obscenity and for making the Dragon Films catalog available for download online.
And this is where things get a little interesting. So to understand this story and why the feds went after Croce and why he was arrested, we need to remember that during this time, the internet was still the Wild West. These were the good old days.
Yeah.
The good old days. But to combat obscene internet porn, the Obscenity Prosecution Task Force, or OPTF, was created in 2005 by the United States Department of Justice. The OPTF's job was to investigate and prosecute producers and distributors of hardcore pornography that met the legal test for obscenity. And we're going to get into that more here in a bit, as defined by the Supreme Court of the United States. The task force formed during the presidency of George W. Bush to investigate hardcore pornography at the urging of social conservative and religious groups and lobbying. Notable cases were brought against Joseph R. Francis Mantra Films, Inc., which is Girls Gone Wild, as well as producers Ira Isaacs and Max Hardcore, among many others.
Yeah. Boy, some things, some things that I've, in porn are pretty rough. And I can attest that, like, man, that's some pretty rough shit to just have available for people to just find and see. But, come on.
It's art.
Yeah.
Now, here, I get what you're saying, though, because to that point, almost all of these big cases, but Girls Gone Wild, Ira, Max, which we may or may not talk about later, they were gone after for their porn. What they did in these videos was thought to be too extreme and obscene by the government, which I think is bullshit. But many of these people, such as them, all did fucked up shit on the side. Like,
yeah, that is true as well.
Whether it was like their shady business dealings or like porn that definitely should have been illegal or ties to illegal sex things, like
some assault shit and fucking weird pedophilia shit and like whatever.
So the lines get blurred because it's like they're targeted for the porn because they can't always get them on the worst shit.
Which is fucked.
Yeah.
Also, that they can't just, like, hey, you're doing bestiality shit.
Right.
You're arrested.
And maybe we'll get to it later, but so Ira Isaacs, they had to try him 3 times to get him, and the first time they tried him, the judge had to recuse himself because he had his own private website with references to bestiality porn.
This is a judge.
And he was mentored by Brett Kavanaugh. That's just a side note.
Oh, cool.
I'll let you pick it back up.
Yeah. So Eric Holder, Barack Obama's appointee for the United States Attorney General, would later dissolve the task force in spring of 2011, leaving obscenity prosecutions to the United States Department of Justice Criminal Division's Child Exploitation and Obscenity section. But in the meantime, the feds were going hard off after online pornography. President George W. Bush, twice elected with solid backing of conservative Christians, promised to curb adult pornography in the United States. But the administration had little effect on the $13 billion industry, and this is according to anti-porn activists, largely because the FBI has focused on investigations and smaller operations, producing extreme forms of smut instead of on the bigger companies. Adult obscenity investigations have taken a backseat to more pressing issues such as terrorism, even though former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales named obscenity as a top priority, according to 2 FBI officials.
It's the top priority. It's our biggest fucking problem as a country. And they often went after the smaller operations because it was a lot easier because they didn't have the money to fight these legal cases.
Right. Internal FBI guidelines also encourage agents to focus on the most egregious violations of materials that depict rape, defecation, or sex with animals.
And they should go after that shit.
Yeah.
Not defecation. That's...
It's gross, but it's not...
That's the that's the distinguishing line in a lot of these cases.
Yeah.
Like, of course they should go after, like, real... videos of rape or anything with bestiality, but defecation, as gross as it is, I don't think it's the government's place to decide that's illegal.
Right.
I mean, it's their place, but I disagree with the decision.
Right. There's not there's not a victimized person in there if the person that's involved is a fetishist.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
The Justice Department spokesman Brian Sierra said that the department does not have guidelines that spell out what sexually explicit material crosses the line into obscenity. It's basically prosecutorial discretion, he said. And
that's where it gets really fucking weird. Obscenity has been notoriously difficult to define in a legal context. There's that big quote by Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart that said, "I know it when I see it." He said that in 1964, and that's been something that's been repeated ever since. Under a test established by the court in 1973, the material in question must depict sex in a manner that offends contemporary community standards and is devoid of artistic or scientific value to be found obscene. Which is so fucking subjective.
Yeah.
Like, if you had a Picasso as the one who could explain why it was artistic or whatever, like, I mean, shit, like, you could justify whatever you want to whoever you want with that loose of a definition.
Right.
So let's take a look at what it means to be charged with obscenity. And so we're going to go, since the 19th century, the U.S. has waged war in the name of morality against any material it considers obscene. Thank you, religion. The Comstock Law was passed in 1873. It made it illegal to send obscene materials, contraceptive methods, sex toys, erotica, and abortion information in the mail. The law had been extensively criticized over the course of its existence, as it's often seen as conflicting with the First Amendment.
Yeah.
Because it is.
Yeah.
We also see later people like Larry Flynt would continue this crusade for the freedom of speech with his magazine Hustler and the court cases it inspired. And we both have separately and independently or whatever looked at Larry Flynt, and he did so much cool shit but he also sounds like he was an asshole in his personal life.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other shit that made it not worthy to really talk too much about the fucking asshole.
It sucks. People are so complicated. Even you can do great shit on one end of your life and make it near meaningless with the stuff you do in your personal life.
Yeah. The whole situation actually is messy, because the Comstock law, it doesn't provide a definition of obscene, which caused a lot of challenges in courtrooms. So what's considered to fit the definition often varied depending on the judge presiding over the case. One of the most important trials in the history of obscenity and censorship in the U.S. was Memoirs versus Massachusetts, a 1966 Supreme Court case that concerned whether or not Memoirs of a Woman of Pleasure, often referred to as Fanny Hill, it's an 18th century erotic novel, qualified as obscene. Defendants of the book successfully proved that while under some circumstances it could be considered obscene, it could not be concluded that it had no redeeming social value.
Right, and social value to who? Like if they put on, I bet in 1966, if 50 Shades of Grey was out, I would guess it's equally, if not more, risque than Memoirs of a Woman of Pleasure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Around the same time, tons of work that was even vaguely pornographic was banned. Even publishers were arrested for assisting in marketing of some of the work. The law really hadn't changed much over time. Since it was passed in, 1873, there wasn't a whole lot of, tampering with that law that happened. So that was the basis for the charges that Croce faced.
Gotcha.
It's kind of why he was so fucked.
Yeah, the limits of the laws weren't pushed yet. So just 1 year before the first Two Girls, One Cup reaction video was uploaded, Croce was arrested in Orlando on charges of obscenity. His company was accused of distributing and selling Dragon Film Productions in the mail. He wasn't arrested because of Two Girls, One Cup, but for the movie called Toilet Man 6.
Yeah, boy.
That's hilarious. Which featured several women using a male actor exactly as the title implies. Which is so funny. Yeah. The tape's distributing plot inspired a U.S. postal inspector to draft a 9-page report detailing the studio's catalog of movies. Between 2003 to 2006, undercover mail agents acquired work produced by Dragon Films and launched a formal investigation into Croce's business.
So they're sneaking scat films through the mail as evidence. As air quotes evidence.
Right. As part of the investigation, the U.S. Postal Inspector had the unfortunate task of watching some of Dragon Films' productions, like Bukkake 3 and Scat Pleasures. It was because of Dragon Films that the term bukkake was added to the long list of topics considered obscene by the U.S. government. It's hard to read. It's so funny. A full document was even written to help a federal judge understand exactly what a fisting scene looks like. God, I would have loved to watch that be read in court.
Oh, it's real good. The document's public. You can look it up online. It reads pretty well.
Oh, that's awesome. Croce was facing felony charges that carried a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison and $150,000 in fines.
I remember this too. I did look at the document, and there's a part in there, the part about fisting. It specifies it's the act of inserting a fist or a large object into either a male anus or male or female anus or female vagina. So technically, you could say that a trans man could get fisted, and it's not considered obscene, or it's not fisting by that law, by this document standard.
I missed how that worked.
So if they're a man with a vagina.
Oh, I get what you mean. Yeah. Dude, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I was surprised because we were trying to find out, because they had to have gone harder against gay porn or gay people in the gay porn
they
industry,
do.
but it was hard to find that much about that. I don't know why.
I feel like also reporting on that wasn't as important to a lot of people at the time.
Yeah.
So he's facing all these charges for distributing all this porn and whatnot. So that was in September he was arrested. In November, Marco released a statement that helped save both him and Croce from further legal troubles. The producer claimed to have absolutely nothing to do with the commercialization of Dragon films in the U.S. He also said that he could never have imagined his work would cause problems abroad, since it's legal to distribute them in Brazil. Croce was eventually released after paying $98,000 and returned to Brazil in custody. The case spelled the commercial end for Dragon films in the U.S., but it was just the beginning of the story for Two Girls, One Cup abroad. The case against Dragon films attracted the attention of innumerable people around the world, and millions of eyeballs would end up on Two Girls, One Cup, transforming the short porn trailer into a cultural sensation. By 2009, Two Girls, One Cup was a certified meme, and it even had its own song. Two Girls, One Cup references became so popular that in 2010, Coca-Cola ran a Dr. Pepper Facebook ad riffing on the video. The post was something to the effect of, "I saw Two Girls, One Cup, and I was hungry afterward." Parents were outraged when they learned that what the post was referencing, and the ad agency that created the campaign was fired. So here's actually what happened with that. I did some digging into that. So the idea was like, they posted a thing about, Dr. Pepper and in Europe, and it was like, whoever commented the funniest thing on Facebook, they would use their thing in an ad, or whoever got the most votes or whatever, they would use that for, a post or an ad.
Right.
So one of them was the "I saw Two Girls, One Cup, and I was hungry afterward," and they followed through with it.
Wow. And
this is an ad agency that Coca-Cola had hired, and, immediately afterward they were fired for it.
Yeah, what fucking idiots.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's awesome, but...
It's fucking great.
Yeah. So, despite several major hiccups in his career, Marco continues to produce fetish films and plays an important role in the porn industry in Brazil. Also, dude, 5 years is a fucking long time. To be, like, that's what he was facing. Like, you can do a lot of shit that doesn't get you 5 years in prison.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy. A quote from someone who works with Marco said, he is much more than just this film. He's a very important director in the market. He avoids talking about the film Two Girls, One Cup because it seems, at least since 2011, when he commented on it, that he can't enter the U.S. anymore because of the incident. So...
that's pretty wild.
He just moved on and continues to do his thing.
Can you imagine being the TSA agent, the customs agent that gets that flag when they're looking at the ID when you come in, and they're looking, they look you up and they see that come up on their thing, like, oh, they're not allowed to enter the company. Why? Or the country? Why? They made Two Girls, One Cup.
Links to Two Girls.
Yeah, it's just a link.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Did you make this video? I'm a big fan, but you can't enter this country.
Yeah. Man, I fucking love this shit, but you can't come in.
Right.
So what everyone really wants to know is,
yes,
was it real?
What do you think?
Was it really shit? I always told myself when I was younger it wasn't. I heard the rumor that it wasn't, and I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Now, I think I know. I think it wasn't real. I think they did the pudding, or they whipped up a recipe real quick.
A nice chocolate mousse.
Yes, they inserted some chocolate mousse. But here's my argument. When she pukes onto the poop, the color is so different. It's different color, different textures.
Yeah, that's puke.
Right. And I get that puke is different. But if they were ingesting the shit and puking the shit up, it would look more similar.
Yeah.
That's my factual scientific argument.
Okay. So you're arguing that regardless of whether it was real or not, they weren't actually ingesting the shit.
Correct.
Okay. There's definitely one scene where she swallows a little nugget of that.
Some probably made it in.
Some probably made it past them.
But I think it's largely an act. I mean, the Brazilian shit scene's a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know enough to also about food photography to know that there's, like most of the photographs of food that you see is not real food.
Right. Did you watch that documentary on McAfee, John McAfee?
No.
He's the guy that made McAfee antivirus.
Nope.
So he is a fucking psychopath. Dude, hardcore. If you look him up, half the pictures that will come up is him with guns to his head. Like, he made all of his money, was into all kinds of weird sex and drug stuff. Then he moved to South America, and he lived with like 10 women, and they would sit in a hammock and poop into his mouth like every day.
Oh boy!
He created his own compound and was into the Brazilian like porn, sex work industry, and he's a fucking psycho. So there's a reason it's real, and I think a large part of it is like, which is fucked up because you could consent to filming one of these videos, like a legit consent, but the reason you may have done it is because you were like so desperate, right? And that's where like it gets pretty fucked up.
Yeah, when it starts getting into the realm of someone that's like obviously going outside of their comfort zone because, like you said, out of desperation, that's you're getting into some really fucked up shit there. If it's people that this is their fetish,
that's different.
That's different.
But it's so hard to know. And I still feel overall it pretty much should all be legal unless someone is non-consenting or like it's like super dangerous.
Right.
I think that's my kind of two things, but it sucks because a lot of people consent out of desperate situations. And it's kind of fucked up. It's like Brazilian videos and they're getting mailed to another country. And for all you know, the actors in Brazil are just like they need to fucking eat, and that they found a way to make money by mailing shit porn to the US. It's like, right. Fuck. God damn.
So many people suspected that Marco's scenes, like the one depicted in 2 Girls, 1 Cup, could be faked with chocolate ice cream or post-production special effects. By the time Croce was arrested, Marco had already admitted that he would often use chocolate to simulate actual excrement when filming. Yeah. But Julie DeLarge, a director and porn actress who worked with Marco on approximately 20 scenes, says she doubts the director faked most of his scatology films. I think I skipped over the main part of the root word of that, the scat. I've never heard, this is her quote, "I've never heard of scat scenes made with chocolate," she said. "I can't speak for the actresses in 2 Girls, 1 Cup, but DeLarge indicated that Marco usually preferred his scenes to be real."
What an artist.
Yeah, what an artist. 2 Girls, 1 Cup was an accidental triumph. When the video went viral in 2007, the internet was far from what it is now. Today, a meme like 2 Girls, 1 Cup usually has a far shorter lifespan. 2 Girls, 1 Cup phenomenon was different because it occurred when the video streaming was fairly new. So being a YouTuber wasn't yet a profession. It was just a way to upload and share videos. And that's kind of why it popped off the way it did.
It was a sensation.
Yeah.
And as it rose to popularity, Hervé Roy, the composer of Lover's Theme, which was used as the background music, he subsequently sued the production company of the video because Roy he'd never consented to his music being used for it. And that's like, that's like the worst thing like a song could be used for, like as the musician.
Yeah, I get that no press is bad press, but no one's watching this video and then going, "Oh, what's that song though?" Like,
that's the
cool.
Lover's Theme by Hervé Roy. So that's kind of our background info on the 2 Girls, 1 Cup. So we kind of want to get into like some other information and like riffing on the ethics in porn of sex and sex work. So Two Girls, One Cup and some of these court cases that were brought by the OPTF were used as a divisive tool in an attempt to carve out obscenity standards in a court of law. But without clear precedent, these rulings were at the whim of men, and most specifically men with a very particular kind of agenda regarding any and all public expressions or discussions of sex and sexuality. They didn't have to be repulsive. It was just up to these people in positions of power.
Yeah.
I think that the way to address this is not by this shitty judicial process, but by passing better obscenity laws that have in mind as their first principles not moral scolding, but the protection of porn performers, and to clearly lay down what is accepted and what is not, rather than leaving those judgments to the whim of a given prosecutor. And it is definitely worth mentioning that obscenity laws have changed. It's the task force is done. They prosecute everything under you mentioned it earlier, the child endangerment, whatever the fuck it was called. So it's definitely changed, but for a while there, it was like just up to a court system to decide if, I guess it still is, but it was different.
Yeah. It's real fucked up. The whole prosecuting sex workers thing is real fucked up.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess there's nothing, I mean, besides the Christian moral standard, there's nothing wrong with it. It's the oldest, job in the world.
Yeah. And all those court cases they brought, it never sounded like a concern at all that they were worried about the sex workers or the actors.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, it's about a morality of people shouldn't be watching this.
Right. Like if I was going to make a case in 2007, if I was a prosecutor and I had to make a case on why Two Girls, One Cup should not be legal and all over the internet, the only angle I could think of would be to protect the people in the industry from being like put in positions where they needed to do films like this. Yeah. Because by allowing it, you do allow the films to be more extreme, and like I'm sure there's more people in the business that gravitated towards the heavier films.
Yeah.
That is the only argument I could ever imagine for making it illegal. And that never was said.
Make sure those two girls were treated like queens and they were paid exorbitant amounts of money.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know what they made.
Yeah.
It probably would.
I feel like it would be sad to know what they made, because I can't think of a number that's high enough.
Depends on if it was real poop or not. That's a factor.
That is also a factor.
That's a factor.
I mean, that's still real throw up, but
yeah, but that's not that abnormal. Now, how the fuck are these religious organizations able to lobby in on these decisions? I don't fucking get it at all.
Because church and state, Stephen.
Right.
We have to keep, it's part of the American values that we keep church and state completely together. We have to keep them as one solid object.
See, I think these Christian churches, they really, they get involved in these kind of cases because deep down, they really want an excuse to be near hardcore porn.
Oh, yeah. They're like, I gotta do research so I can, come to put together this court case.
Right.
I have to, so I'm gathering evidence.
They'll go to great lengths to be involved in prosecuting a type of porn just so they can get a glimpse.
Why's your browser history all bang bus? I was doing research this weekend.
Why is your
building my case
all your church homepage and Pornhub? What the fuck? Dude, I had this friend in high school one time, and we, if you click the Google search bar, sometimes it would show past history stuff. His first 3 results were cinnamon spelled wrong. And we didn't let it go forever. It was like, why were you looking up cinnamon? Why were you spelling it wrong? Why did you look it up 3 different times? What were you doing? It's a hell of a cinnamon bender.
I thought you were going a different direction with that, and it reminded me of a kid I knew in culinary school. This was the tech school in Florida.
Yeah.
And this kid, I liked this kid. He was cool. He had a cyst in his brainstem, and he had,
shit.
So he was like, he was 18 or 19, but he was at the maturity level of like a 11 or 13-year-old.
Damn.
And I'm not sure if that's exactly the correlation of the cyst in the brainstem or it was something else, but that was the situation. But during lunch hours, he would go into the classroom computer that was it wasn't like facing away from the door or anything. He would just go in there on the lunch hour, and we would one day we found the search history, and it was, boobies. It was Dragon Ball Z boobies.
Nice.
And just a ton of those, just a whole list of,
good for you.
Girls' butts, shit like that. And it was like, oh, dude, no, you can't do this here. We told him, you got to kill the history, dog. It's cool, but you got to kill the history.
God, that was always fun.
Don't do it here.
Ways around the schools, like monitored internet and shit. Booting up their computers into safe mode, doing F9 and getting into turn their controller mod off where you're the one in charge of the computer and then do whatever you want. Or those mirror websites and shit. That was a blast.
Hey, now, man, how else are you going to play Warcraft at school?
Now, speaking of porn stuff, there's been a ton of developments with that lately. And I do have some conflicted feelings because a lot of the censorship around porn is related to protecting children.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's what's going on. Right. I don't think the problem is being solved in the ways they're making changes.
Right.
So we touched on this a little bit one episode, but I think this is a bigger thing than people realized. So last December, Visa and MasterCard stopped processing payments to Pornhub, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it kind of fucking is. Pornhub's announcements also cites a report by a third-party Internet Watch Foundation, which found 118 instances of child sex abuse material on Pornhub in the last 3 years. Yeah. So that doesn't sound good, right?
Yeah, right.
But 118 over, to be clear, any amount of child abuse on the internet is unacceptable.
Right.
Right. But over 3 years, that's not that
among so many millions of videos.
Right. And the thing is so they caught 118 cases in 3 years. Every time they would catch that, they are pursuing legal charges against the person or getting to the bottom of what happened. It's not like they just allow it. That shit is gone right away, or as soon as someone reports it, and they're going after whoever did it.
Right.
And so by getting rid of it, it pushes shit to the dark web. That we know. But so to compare this, during that same period of 3 years, Facebook's own transparency report found 84 fucking million instances of child sexual abuse material on their social media platform.
It's uncomparable numbers.
Uncomparable. Why is Pornhub setting the standard of safer internet activity as a porn company than Facebook?
Right.
That's absurd.
Yeah. It's super fucked.
Instead of us, feds, whatever, these lobbying groups, church groups, going after Facebook to have better policies or whatever regarding it, it's Pornhub's targeted instead.
Yeah.
So it's clear that Pornhub is being targeted not because of our policies, but how we compare to our peers, but because we are an adult content platform. The announcement stated from a Pornhub representative. The two groups that have been spearheading the campaign against our company are the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, which sounds like a good name, important thing, but this is the group formerly known as Morality and Media, which there is a crazy track record on, and the other group is called Exodus Cry / Trafficking Hub. So, all right, so we'll get in more of that. These organizations are dedicated to abolishing pornography, banning material they claim as too obscene, and shutting down commercial sex work, which are all very separate and different complicated issues.
Yeah.
They are the same forces that have spent 50 years demonetizing Playboy.
Demonizing.
Thank you. Demonizing Playboy. They can't demonetize them by themselves. Yeah. Demonizing Playboy, the National Endowment of the Arts, which what the fuck?
Yeah.
Sexual education, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, and even the American Library Association. Today, they happen to be going after Pornhub.
Yeah.
Dude, fuck these people so much.
So, Motherboard investigated Trafficking Hub in September, and its parent organization, the conservative anti-trafficking group Exodus Cry. Yeah. Sex workers say that Exodus Cry's roots in anti-pornography and anti-sex work causes, or the anti-sex work causes, as well as its current lobbying for Pornhub to be shut down completely, only work to put them more at risk. Yeah. When Exodus Cry first emerged in 2007, it was little more than a weekly prayer group hosted by a man named Benjamin Nowat at the charismatic Christian enclave known incredibly as the International House of Prayer, or IHOP.
Fuck you, Benjamin. What a douche.
At the time, the group met Monday nights to, as No Law put it in a 2012 speech, pray for trafficking. 5 years later, yeah, it sounds like they're for it.
Yeah, what a terrible slogan.
5 years later, they opened their first restoration shelter for victims of human trafficking called the Lighthouse. We're saying, give us those girls, Nolat told the crowd in his dedication. We want to put them in the right context.
Weird. Why are these people always so fucking weird about it?
The phrasing is so poor. The porn laws need to be cleaned up to help prevent sex trafficking under the guise of porn, said a business lawyer who has worked to reform adult industry regulations, but I don't think going completely blitzkrieg on the porn industry is going to further that cause.
Right? I don't understand. Like, no one, very few people in general or in the porn industry are going to be pro sex trafficking.
Right.
Well, I don't get why
that hurts them.
Right.
You know, the professional people that are doing it as a career, you know, as a business, that's hurting them.
Yeah. It's porn and sexual trafficking, they're related, but they're two separate things. And many of the laws intended to stop both are religiously motivated and are not truly designed to help the people in these worlds that are at risk. It's like to set precedent to make an example of people, to scold people, to control morality in the country, but it's rarely directly about the people involved and to help people. Yeah. Many times these laws punish the people involved when they're caught, or we see the effect of this on sex workers all the time. They're often very vocally in opposition to new sexual trafficking laws because of the downstream consequences of banning something like a Backpage website could mean that they might not be able to communicate among themselves about dangerous areas, men, or other risks involved in their work. By banning the websites, not allowing them to communicate other things that are often included in sexual trafficking legislation, it often can have these downstream effects that hurt sex workers and make their jobs more risky. That's why we need better laws on that.
Exactly. You know, overall, it's really, that's the thing about it. It's like when you ban something that people are still going to go do, you make it more dangerous for those people to do that thing. It's the same with drugs. It's the same with abortion. You know, it's when you make it harder for someone to do it legally, you know, they're going to do it illegally and it's going to be fucked up. Yeah. You know, there's going to be, you know, a lot more danger to that person. So,
people are never going to stop having sex. They're never going to stop watching porn, and they're never going to stop getting high. And it's like the sooner that's accepted and we figure out healthy solutions or ways to make things available to those who want and consent to it, the better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in reality, I like to think about it this way, like, imagine all the work that you and I go through for trying to get traction on this, this podcast, and,
Sure.
all the social media work that we're putting in and stuff like that. And like, like I know, like I've know girls that have OnlyFans, like I like personally know them. And I know that like they started off with a small page of, like doing model stuff like a long time ago, and it kind of, turned into something crazy for them. But like, they don't have all the crazy followers that some people do. There's a lot of fucking work that goes into that. The marketing and all the background shit that you have to do. And, let alone the,
You're your own business.
Yeah. All the legal shit I'm sure there is to doing a lot of it that's, you have to deal with. There's just a lot of work involved. It's like, it's not, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of, people are like, oh, I can just upload a couple pictures and get some money. And it's like, that's not, I mean, I'm sure there's a way to get some money, but you're probably not going to live on it.
It can be that way, but it normally isn't.
Yeah. There's a lot of work that I'm sure goes into it, and it's shitty that people kind of shit on that.
Right.
So support your local sex workers. Hit up their OnlyFans. Don't be a fucking weirdo conservative that's ashamed of liking porn because Jesus.
Just because Jesus is ashamed of your genitals doesn't mean you should be too.
It's so true.
It's so funny. I thought penis would sound funnier there, but genitals was more inclusive, so we went with genitals.
We really do. The trash cats have to strive to be better and stay inclusive.
Yeah. Now, I wish there were easier solutions. I do think all these complex are extremely difficult problems.
Absolutely.
But I just can't imagine, like, I feel like a lot of it is the older generations. Like, who the fuck is anti-porn?
Yeah, it's people with that are holding on to the traditional, usually Christian values. I'd say usually, because I'm sure there are some, not as religious people that are, holding on to the values of, their parents and shit like that. The world that they grew up in, where you couldn't just, click a button on a keyboard and find, porn.
I think way more people are involved in porn, whether as a viewer or not. That's the thing, is a lot of people that would like, there's so much hypocrism.
Recover.
Yeah. like hit my head too hard a month ago and don't remember it or something. But if you don't, like, being against porn, or like being against something, even if it's more extreme, like a 2 Girls 1 Cup, if you watch porn at all, then you're a hypocrite. So many of these, like, people in the religious groups are hypocrites. Everybody watches porn or has sex.
And I think really a lot of it is like they say, like, some of the more strong, like, homophobic people, like, they're like that because they're closeted. Yes. They have a lot of, emotions and feelings and stuff that they're hiding, or they feel ashamed of and shit like that. And I feel like with porn, especially with this kind of, like, people lobbying against it and whatever, I think it's a similar, notion that they're ashamed of it, or they feel like they should be ashamed of it because they were raised with different, moral things. Or as a politician, you're trying to get the vote of the people that are, of that moral belief.
Yeah, I was just trying to find statistics on porn itself, and it's definitely like more than 55. I found 55, but I think more than 55% of people watch porn. Or it said 55 regular, or 55 had seen porn. 44% are regular porn viewers.
Yeah, I feel like for what our expertise is in this topic, which is, as the watchers of porn, the
porn aficionado.
Porn aficionados. They said after they just watched Two Girls, One Cup, it's, I don't want to say too much that's, put out in ignorance. I'm sure there's a lot of fucked up shit that goes on in porn. I'm sure. Yeah, of course.
It's got to be a sketchy industry. I think there are definitely like some groups. I'm sure you're familiar with kink.com.
Yeah.
Like they're hardcore, but they've always been super transparent about how they treat the people involved. And it's considered a very healthy BDSM/porn community.
Yeah.
We definitely could use more, groups like that really advocate for the people involved.
Yeah. During research for this, I was looking up I couldn't find, I guess, maybe the right search terms, but I was trying to find good, porn directors or producers or companies that are good to the employees and stuff like that. Like that's huge. I couldn't find results. I'm sure my fucking search terms were awful because I didn't know what to look for with that. But
some of the best are women.
Yeah.
They shoot great porn.
Yeah, they do.
They know what they're doing. The guys don't know what we're doing.
We just hold a fucking camera and grunt.
Or with sex in general, we just show up and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, as long as you get your rocks off at the end,
it went okay.
It's a movie, baby.
Right.
That's the biz, baby.
Oh shit. Oh god damn it. Dude, did you watch that All Gas No Breaks at the porn convention?
Oh, actually I saw part of it.
Okay. Oh man. I can't imagine so I think porn, sex work, it's all great, but I don't fully understand the communities that are so overly involved in sex that they would want to go to a convention or do you know what I mean? There is a point where it's kind of fucking weird.
I can understand people that work in the industry wanting something like that. That's cool. But
like a fan?
Imagine you and me go to the AVN Awards or whatever. That'd be fucked up.
I could only do that as a joke or for the meme of it, but there
live cast from inside the fucking Pornhub con.
There was a father and son father and son who went to the AVN porn thing on All Gas No Breaks, and it was so fucking cringy. And they were weird. Oh, she was so nice. I said she was really cute. And it's a father and son going together. It's what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Nah, dog.
It's a weird world, that's for sure. I'm not against it, but
that's fucking weird.
But I do, as a general thing, there is an element of over sexuality in the U.S. or just the world today. Don't you think?
I feel like that's hard to say.
God, I felt old when I said that.
Yeah, really. You fucking conservative over here. Lobbyist Steven over here.
I'm trying to figure out exactly what I mean by that. I think I'm saying to understand.
I think there's a lot of weird things with
kids.
When people, I was gonna say when people sexualize kids in a way that they're they've got a little boyfriend or little stuff like that. Some of it I get it's cutesy, but it's it's not really necessary.
I know what you mean. That and beauty shows, pageants.
Oh God, yeah, that shit gets vile.
Yeah, the tiara, whatever the fuck that thing is called. That shit, dressing your kids up to be pretty in the eyes of other adults, or to sexualize them, or a bathing suit competition with kids. All that shit's so fucked up. And there's so many major television networks that give that a lot of time and a lot of viewership.
And you can, it's very clear that a lot of the parents involved, like the mothers involved, are like pushing on their daughter, like their own, the need to be, pretty, need to have this, reaction.
And it's always justified by like, oh, look how much the kid wants to be involved in it. And it's like, that kid may want that because that's what you wanted. They just want you to be happy. That's always like
you gave them a hobby. You could have put them in karate or something, and they might have been like, oh yeah, this rules, because they're going to the competitions and stuff, and meeting other kids and whatever.
Yeah, like dude, this is a separate thing, but like I have some cousins that are very great young men. They're very bright. Could have really interesting lives, whatever, and they're like very adamantly religious. Like as a young college kid, like no experimentation with partying, women, whatever. Sex before marriage is so evil and wrong, kind of thing. And it's like they are that way because they think it's what makes their parents proud.
Yeah.
Like there's a point where they believe it, like the beauty pageants and shit. Like it becomes what they want because they know that's what their parents want for them.
Yeah,
and it just replaces their actual wants and needs.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Imagine not having sex before marriage.
Oh my god!
Like how the fuck is that marriage going to work at all?
Can you imagine both of us being virgins right now?
Oh my god. Like, hi, this is the Trashcast.
Because as everyone knows, the first time you nut, your voice changes. The first time you have the first indicator of after someone's had sexual intercourse is their voice gets less nasally and goes down a couple octaves.
Obviously, our whole podcast would be like a in-depth scientific breakdown of what's in trash. Like,
so today in my local dumpster, I found a couple banana peels. I found two cup ramens. One of them was only half eaten.
The other one was mine.
It's my favorite flavor.
We could just review our own trash. That's what would happen if we didn't have sex in high school.
Oh, boy.
Dude, but like, seriously, like, sex is so fucking important as like a human to feel connection, to not feel loneliness, to express love, all those things. And there's like a real thing where if you don't sexually align with your partner, it's not always going to work long term.
Right. I think there's definitely a lot to say that like your relationship shouldn't be based around how good the sex is.
Agreed. Yeah.
But it's,
it's fucking important.
Yeah, you have to learn that, through feeling it. It's like you can say that to someone, but that doesn't mean anything until they have felt that and understand like, oh, this is what they meant when they said, oh, like sex it doesn't make the relationship.
Right. Dude, by the time my parents wanted to talk to me about what sex was and stuff, I was already old enough that I didn't want to hear any of it from them. Like Catholic school stuff, like no one told you what those things were, and it is so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. But like myself or so many kids that went through similar experience made so many stupid decisions and mistakes purely out of ignorance because of religion. It's so fucking stupid.
I'm pretty sure I first got the talk, and it wasn't really the talk. It was kind of inadvertent, like talk when I was young. My dad was helping me get ready for, I think it was first grade, and it was like, teach me how to like wash my face and like, get ready for school on my own kind of thing. And, I don't even know. I'm not even sure how it came up in conversation, but we were talking about girls for a minute. And, I'm in like kindergarten or first grade or something like that. Like I did like girls, but I was embarrassed by it because I was a little boy, and most of them are. So he'd ask me about it, go like, "Oh no," and he'd say, he said something about like, it was something about kissing a girl, and I was like, "Ew, no," and he's like, I think he said something to the effect of, "Well, you want to have kids, don't you?" I was like, "Well, yeah." Because we had talked in conversation about my like my name is I'm the third and he's the second, and it was like a thing, yeah. So that was kind of part of the conversation, I think, and so he was like, "You want to have a kid, don't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, you have to, you're gonna have to kiss a girl eventually, or you have sex or something like that." I don't think he said have sex. I think the way he phrased it, but. I basically got the talk at that point, like that's how babies are made, kind of thing. And it wasn't like shocking, it wasn't like a weird thing. I wasn't, changed for it. I don't think. I was like, "Oh, that's wild." And then I went to school.
Right.
Yeah. It wasn't like that broke my brain or, that made me a sexual deviant.
Right. It's way worse to learn about it way too late than too early. Yeah. Now, do you want to have kids at some point?
I'm not. The thing is, it's not that I'm against having kids. It's just that I don't think it's necessary to bring more people into this planet when there's so many kids that need homes already. And I feel like one of my biggest things is like there's a population problem, and it's as much as I think it would be fun to have my own kid and all that. I think that I'm totally fine with adopting. There's a thing about love comes from the heart, not from the not from your genitals. Kind of thing, you can, even that, like I was thinking the other day, I was talking with my boss about adoption and stuff like that. We were talking about relationships and shit. And I said, I realized, I'm going to be 30 this year, and I'm looking around, and some of the girls that I'm interested in and I'm talking to are like, they got kids, or they might have kids or something. And it's like, that doesn't really turn me off. I'm not, there right now as far as the rest of my life, because I don't have kids, but I got nieces and nephews. I like playing with them motherfuckers. Yeah. Especially if I can skip the couple years of changing diapers and shit. Hell yeah, dog.
Yeah. If you like the person enough, it shouldn't be like a factor that makes the relationship impossible.
Right. Have any dishonors or advice this week?
Fuck George W. Bush. Fuck the Obscenity Task Force. Fuck Picasso and his stupid fucking watch.
Yeah.
And fuck Andy Warhol, too.
Yeah, fuck Andy Warhol.
Yeah, fuck Andy Warhol. And if you haven't watched Two Girls, One Cup, it's a great film. I highly recommend it. Check it out.
Yeah.
And I think that'll do it.
Yeah. Once again, of course, support your local sex workers.
Yeah, that too.
And thanks again for listening. We really appreciate every listen, and especially when you share us and with a fellow trash cat. Every new listener really helps a ton, and we need the validation. So you you could be doing literally anything with the hours that you choose to listen to our show. So we really appreciate you giving us your time. That's a huge thing to us, and we really do appreciate it.
Yeah, just link your friends to Two Girls, One Cup, and then the podcast.
Yeah, and then the podcast. They'll be so really, it's like, you give them the bad information first, and then, the good information.
Yeah, the good news after.
Yeah, that's how that works. Thank you to Approaching Human for the use of his music. You can find his work on SoundCloud at Approaching-Human.
Thanks, John.
Make sure you check out the show page at trashcatsxtrashcast on Instagram for news and art from the show.
Yep. We're also on Reddit at trashcatsxtrashcast. We're also on Facebook now too.
So yeah.
And if you're super bored, you can check out my trashy art on Instagram at Skyzix, SKYZICX. And I think that does it.
Yeah.
Tune in next Wednesday for a freestyle episode. That'll be super fun.
Yeah, boy.
Yep.
That's going to be all for us today. Stay classy, eat trashy.
Go fast, eat trash.
Wow.
Damn, dog.
Oh, boy. Little dog.
I feel like I smelled that one.
It's that smell-o-vision.